little bit more of a curve on those, just a little bit. I think even good morning, disc golfers and YouTubers and all y'all watching this video. Today I'm out here to do a building the bag type of video for you guys. I've seen a few people on the fan page ask about how to build a bag with MVP or what disc should they look for. So this video should give you a pretty good insight on that. First thing we're going to start with is putting putters. Got the Electron Spin and the Electron Anode, the firm. The reason why I think it's important to get the firm is because if you get the mediums or the softs, they're going to change consistency in different temperatures, right? So if it's really hot, the soft is going to actually become more soft and flexy. It makes it hard to get a consistent release angle because you can squeeze it a little more or a little less and it'll create a different angle because you're actually flexing the disc, right? So you want the electron firm anodes for inside the circle, something that you can pop up to straight where it can fight the wind a little bit and always crash left. And then you also want the electron spin, which is, like I said, a more straight floaty putter that doesn't finish left as much, which is good when you are farther from the basket because you don't want to try and fight the anodes to get them to hold straight for longer. It's just better to just use the spin. All right, so you have those two, and I think for the most part it's better to go max weight on the putters, 175. For the spin you can go a little lighter, like closer to 170, but if you start getting too light, it becomes pretty floaty and hard to control. Okay, so for putting putters, there's that. And then for throwing putters, it's actually going to be the same two discs, and I'll tell you why. So we have the R2 spin, which is different plastic. This is recycled plastic, but it feels just like premium. It has that smoother, little slicker feel. The Electron is drier and more grabby, which is great for the chains and also for like short shots where you really want the disc to grab the ground. But these don't slide too much even though they are slick, so these are great for those short shots too. The difference with these with throwing is because they're smoother and slicker, for lack of a better word, I think they're a lot more consistent on the release, getting it seamless, getting it out of your hand. And they feel very similar to the other molds, the Electron Spin and the Electron Anode. Again, you want the R2 Neutron Spin for the straight floaty throw inside 150 feet, maybe up to 200, you'll like it. And then for the R2 anode, it's going to feel the same as the spin in your hand, but it's going to fight the wind better and crash left earlier, right? So they should look like this. My hand's not wet. We'll go with the R2 spin first, more floaty. Get it. Woo! Like I said, these are the best. Where's my towel at? Where's my towel at? What's that? Yeah. Hands are cold, sorry. So yeah, R2 spin, floaty, straight. I think this will be the most similar thing to a normal frisbee or a beach frisbee if you've thrown that before. Obviously, it's not going to feel the same, but the way it floats and flies is pretty similar, right? Woo. All right. And then, like I said, the anode is going to look the same and feel the same, but you'll notice it wants to crash left earlier, doesn't hold that float forward for very long. Okay, so this distance, you're not going to notice it much, but if it was windy, you would. All right. Little bit more of a curve on those, just a little bit. I think even though that you don't see that much of a difference, you can see that it is curving hard at the end. I'm going to throw them at the 200-foot range and show you guys how they act on that line so you can see that when you do push them a little farther, the differences start to show more and more. All right. Okay, so got a little ahead of myself. Sometimes when you get a throw in, messes your mind up. I did want to show you the entropy also. Now, as a newer player, and most times in general, even as a more advanced player, you're not going to use this disc very much for throwing. But if it's really windy, like if you have the wind pushing at your face, it's not going to be good to throw the spin or the anode as much because they're not as strong, you can think of, right? So the entropy is going to be a stronger disc to fight that wind for you, and I'll show you here. See how hard that curves, right? So if it was a wind that was pushing hard that way, you wouldn't want to throw it with that much angle. You'd want to throw it more this way so that it is not going to get pushed. Because if you show that side of the disc, the wind is going to push it a lot, right? So if the wind is pushing right to left, that'd be the only time in a windy situation that you wouldn't be able to just throw this normal, right? Which normal, I mean right across on a little angle, right? So if it were that kind of wind, you would throw it this way, but that's a whole nother throw. As a learner, you just want to be working on that smooth, small hyzer, right? And I think even if it is a strong right to left, you can still throw it. You just have to throw it a little flatter or a little more to the right, okay? It's going to be really reliable. That way you don't have to try and be so careful with the other discs in the wind, all right? All right, so now we're at 200 feet. You can see the basket there. If not, I'll put an arrow and I'll put a freeze frame. Just kidding. Well, like I said, the spin is going to be a little bit flippier at this range, which means that if I throw it on a small hyzer or even flat, it's going to want to move to the right, let's say clockwise from that angle, either here or if I throw it flat, it'll move there. Um, and the anode is going to hold that line better, which, like I said, is going to be stronger in the wind. And then the entropy obviously would be the most strong to curve left the hardest for you. You do want to get discs that go straighter in general, but it's also good to have something that wants to curve, right? These are the R2 spins, more floaty. A little low, but pretty straight. Same thing, right? Pretty straight, a little bit left at the end. All right. Then we'll go with the anodes. Definitely came out a little early, but you can see how hard that one wants to push left. Let's get this one a little straighter. Woo! See that curve at the end there? It's a little bit subtle, but you can notice it, right? So like I said, when it's a little windy, or you do want to make sure it has a little curve at the end, that R2 anode is going to be a good one to reach for. And then if you needed a lot of curve, you would throw the entropy, like we said, all right? And then obviously when you're throwing something that has more curve, that's more overstable or stronger, you're going to want to swing it more to the right or throw it flat or even more on that angle, right? Which is anhyzer, which you worry about later. Right now, like I said, you want to focus on throwing that slight angle there and move your aim as necessary. It's going to be a lot easier to get consistency that way, right? All right, so we're still looking at 200 feet here, but now I want to show you guys the mid-ranges that I think you want to start with, okay? So we have the Uplink, which is a 5, 4, -3, 1. That -3, 1 at the end means that if I throw it like this, it's going to go 1, 2, 3. That's the -3. And then the 1 is just 1 back, right? So what that means is that this disc is going to want to go pretty straight on its own, maybe a little bit to the right if you throw it too hard. But for a newer player or person, you want to be smooth all the time. So this is a great disc for that. If you play somewhere where it's really windy, this wouldn't be the best option. But in general, it's a good option other than really windy situations. We also have the hex, which is going to be your straighter option that has a little bit more curve at the end than the uplink. 5, 5, -1, 1 are the numbers. And so those first two numbers you don't need to pay attention to too much. Those last two are going to tell you what the disk is going to do, right? So that -1, 1, again, -1 is going to go here, and then -1 is going to go back. So it's really going to be pretty straight and then a little bit of curve at the end. Reactor, neutron reactor, these are all neutron I'm recommending. 5, 5, 0.5, 1.5, right? So same thing, 0.5, 1.5. So it's going to have a little bit more aggressive curve. And I don't think you need a more stable mid than this, even if you're playing somewhere windy. But if it's crazy windy, you will want to grab a Prism, Proton, Pyro. And that should be enough strength for a newer player as far as needing it to curve when it's really windy. Okay, so I'll show you all four of these in a row. So we'll go uplink first. This is the one that goes smoother and straighter. Right, then we'll go hex. This one's straight but curves a little left at the end. And you got the reactor, that's going to be straight but curve a little more, a little earlier than that one when it is a little windy for you, or if you want to go around the corner. Right, and then we got the Prism, Proton, Pyro. Prism, Proton, Pyro, say that 3 times fast. This one I don't recommend using very much for a newer player, but if it's really windy and you have to, or you have to go around the corner like that, this is a good option. You can see how that would be really hard to throw or to make it go straight because it wants to fight left so hard, all right? So the only other thing I'll show you guys is a couple drivers, but you shouldn't be using drivers too much as a newer player, but these two would be good for you, all right? All right, so I know we said we're not going to look at the drivers too much for newer players or beginners because it's too hard to execute the motion correctly with the driver because you do have to do it a little bit faster, and the faster you try to go when you're newer, the harder it is to execute the motion correctly, right? So you want to stay away from these, but you really can't help it and you really just want to try, these are going to be the best options for you in my opinion, right? So we have the Fission Crave, which is same like I showed you with those other discs. This one's going to want to go pretty straight on its own, going to finish a little bit at the end. Then we also have the Electron Terra, and it's important to get the Electron because the other plastics are way stronger. This is a strong disc, but it's in a softer plastic, so it's kind of in the middle there. It's not too strong. This is good for what beginners are going to want to use it for, okay? So you got the Fission Crave, and then you got the Electron Terra. Both of these should be at least 165, but maybe even up to 170 if the 165 is not behaving correctly for you. And like I said, this one's going to have a little bit of strength to it, but it's not going to fight you too hard. It's just going to want to curve left like those last two on each of those other sets. And that's only for when you really need to go around the corner, all right? So you have those two, and then we also have some longer ones. These are both 11 speeds, and this is definitely the fastest you should be throwing, right? So we have the jet and the wave. The jet is going to want to be straighter and floatier, not going to finish left as much. The wave is going to be pretty similar, but definitely going to finish left for you as long as you let it out on that little slight hyzer, that little curve that we talked about, all right? So we'll show you these, and then you guys will be ready to hit the course. All right, that's the Fission Crave. This is the Electron Terra. Oh. Hopefully you can still see that. I'll throw another one though. Like I said, that one's going to want to curve pretty hard, and it is going to be pretty hard to throw for a newer player. But if all you want is just a curve, that is a good disc for it. So then we have the jet and the wave. Jet is going to go straighter on its own. Wave is going to want to go pretty straight, but then curve left. That was a little high, but you can see it. See if I got one more of those. Oh yeah, we got another jet here. See if we can get this jet a little straighter for you guys. There you go. Pretty straight. Just a little left at the end. And then this wave, like I said, it's going to be pretty similar to that, but then it also is going to want to finish more left at the end. Got into that one a little bit, but they do tend to finish left, especially for a newer player and a slower arm. That did finish left pretty good at the end, but for someone with a slower arm or a newer player, you're going to see that even just a little more. All right, so I hope you guys like it. I'll put some weights recommendations down in the description for someone who throws a little harder naturally and for people who throw a little softer. But other than that, hope you guys liked it, and I got a couple more on the way. Thanks, guys.